Hi, I'm Alicia Dolan, a Stampin' Up! Independent demonstrator. Thank you for joining me tonight in my Stamping Corner. For this Stampin' Sunday video, we are going to be making another really cute card using the Darling Donkey set and a really cool reverse stamping technique I'm going to show you that I just recently learned about. So let's get stamping and have some fun together. Okay, so here we are ready to make our card, and once again this is the card we're going to make tonight. A card from the Darling Donkey set in Celebration. There's only a little more time left to get this donkey set, and so that's why I kind of picked it for tonight. So the first thing we're going to do is get our piece of Night of Navy cardstock, and this piece is cut to 8.5 by 5.5 inches, and along this long side we want to make a score mark at 4 1/4. So we just line it up on our trimmer, use our scoring blade to make a nice crease. Then we're going to fold it in half and using a bone folder to smooth that crease a little bit, kind of press it down. And next we need our piece of paper that has the dots. Now this paper is from the Flowers for Every Season pack, and we are going to cut this one at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. So I'm going to cut the short side first, 4 1/8. And Flowers for Every Season is a paper pack that comes from the annual catalog, the 2020 to 2021 annual catalog. And this side is going to be 5 3/8. This paper is really versatile. There's a lot of really nice patterns in this paper. The one side is sunflowers, but tonight we're going to use the dots. So that will be our next layer. And then we need another piece of Night of Navy that is 2 7/8 by 4 1/2. So this time I'm going to do the 4 1/2 first. Just because of the size the paper is already cut to, it'll make it easier for me. So let's see, I said 4 1/2 by 2 7/8, just right there. So that one is cut. And then with our Whisper White, we are actually going to run it through the Big Shot. And so I just need a 3-inch piece. So I'm just going to trim this one at 3 inches. And I'm going to move my trimmer aside for just a moment. And bring over my Big Shot. Okay, and for this one, we are going to we're going to put our multi-purpose platform down and one of our cutting plates. Then I'm going to lay my paper on there next, and then I have a stitched rectangle from the Stitched Rectangles dies, and this one it cuts a piece that is 2 5/8 by 4 inches. So we're just going to place it on top of that white paper. And squeeze our plates together and push them in until that handle starts to turn. And then we're going to crank them through. Sometimes when I hear that little snap, I think it's going to break, but so far nothing has broken. And then we can carefully peel off the outside layer. And then when we get to the inside layer, I like to turn it to the other side and push the corners out gently, because you don't want to bend your die and you don't want to rip your paper. So gently push each of the sides out. Okay, and then we can put our big shot aside. And I always wheel my plates into the middle when I put it away, just so that everything stays together. Okay, then we will move our trimmer back. And next, let's cut the little pieces for our hee-haw next, and then we will get to stamping. Okay, so I have this piece that was in my stash of white, and it measures, let's see, 1/2 inch, and it's fairly long. But I find that very often I get these little 1/2 inch pieces, and they work really good for small things. So here is our Darling Donkey set, and I am going to use the hee-haw first. Now, these are cling stamps, so that means they have a foam backing. And remember, this set is only available during celebration, which only lasts until February 28th. So if you want this set, you spend $50 between now and the end of February, you can choose it as one of the free options. And tonight I am going to stamp in Memento black ink. And so we'll put our stamp on there a little bit. Make sure it's nice and covered. And when you're inking up your stamps, you always want to press them flat. You don't want to wobble them or wiggle them around, because then you'll get ink where you don't want it to be. Alright, and then we'll just carefully measure it out. And stamp so that we're kind of in the middle. Well, it looks like it worked out okay. And I'm going to take my chamois and clean my stamp real quick so I can put that one right back away. And these chamois are really nice. They're not expensive. And all you need is water with these to clean your stamps nice and clean. For all of your basic inks. Now your permanent inks, the inks that you use that are StazOn inks, they need a little extra cleaning. So the chamois will get them clean, but they'll have a stain on them. So I'm just going to close up my Memento ink pad until I'm ready for that. I'm going to put my hee-haw away. And then I'm going to trim my hee-haw seam so that it's kind of even in there, but I always kind of round up just a little bit so that I have a little extra space. So it looks like 1 1/4 is a good spot for this one. Yeah, and that turned out all right. And then I also had another piece of Night of Navy in my stash, and this one measures, let's see, looks like about 5/8. And so what we'll do is turn over our hee-haw and put a little liquid glue on the back. Oh, looks like I'm out of glue. Hold on, let me get another one right quick. And remember to be very careful when you're using the liquid glue. It does come out fast and you don't want a lot. You just want fairly light coverage because you don't want your paper to be so wet that it bends when it dries. And you don't want it to ooze out the sides either. Okay, so then we're going to line this up so that it's kind of centered on there. And the nice thing about the liquid glue is you can scoot it around a little bit if you make a mistake. And then I'm going to take my snips and just snip off the end in a straight-ish line. And this part I can set aside until I need it. And next I'm going to show you how I reverse stamped the donkey. So I used my Stamparatus, and because I'm working with cling stamps, I take out this black foam layer that sits inside there. And then we need our silicone craft sheet. Now, Stampin' Up! Sells these too, and they're inexpensive. They have a lot of uses. Adhesives don't really stick to them, so I use mine a lot of the time when I'm working with a glue gun, and it protects my table, and the glue peels right off of here. It doesn't stick at all. And then okay, let's see, where's my donkey? Okay, and this is the donkey we're going to use, this donkey who's kicking up his heels. And we're going to place him, I placed him over here on this side because when I flip him over, I want to put him here on my paper. So then we'll close our Stamparatus and pick up our stamp, open up our Memento ink, and now it is important when you're inking up your stamp on the Stamparatus to keep your stamp pad kind of parallel with your stamp. So you just want to press down a lot of times. You don't want to press hard. So just dab, dab, dab the ink pad on the stamp. And when you're inking it up, you want to press gently. You don't want to press really hard. I think I already said that, but it's very important. Okay, and so now we are going to take our Stamparatus and close our stamp onto the silicone craft sheet. And I did that twice just because I wanted to make sure that my stamp, my silicone craft sheet had quite a bit of ink on it. And I didn't press down hard, just gently. And when you lift it up, you can see that image on there. Now I'm going to scoot that to the side, move over my card that I actually want to transfer the image onto, and I'm going to sit it on my foam mat. And then you're going to take your silicone craft sheet, line it up where you want it to be, and gently, oh, I scooted it, oh no. Okay, I'm not sure that's going to work, but we're going to try it anyway. And you're just going to press down. You don't want to rub, just press. And I did try this, pressing a block down on top, and I found it didn't work for me. So let's see how we did. He's a little smudged, but he'll be okay. So now we're going to clean off our stamp real quick. He isn't exactly where I wanted him to be, but we're going to color him in, and he's not too smudgy, so we're going to let him be. Alright, let's see. I think I got all the ink off of there. And so now we're going to move this over here and take our magnet and hold it down. And let me move this out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. Then we're going to take our donkey off. Actually, I popped up the second donkey, so we're going to stamp him on this other piece of white right here. And I'll just put him on a block. Ink him up. Okay, close up my ink, and I'm going to stamp him right here. And so you can see, let's see, a small difference in, I think maybe right here mostly, where I kind of scooted that silicone mat when I set it down, but if you set it down more carefully, you won't get as much of that smudging as I did. And now we're going to color our donkeys. So for this brown one, I used, or tan maybe, I used the Stampin' Blend marker. And for the other one, I used my blender pen and some classic ink pads. So I'll show you both of those theories real quick. I just wanted to stick my donkey over there on the chamois so it'll be clean and I won't have to think about it. Now the Stampin' Blends color really nicely. They're nice and smooth. These are alcohol-based markers, similar to what Copic markers or other craft markers are. And so I colored him in. Don't forget his tail. Sometimes I forget their tails. And his legs. And these markers make it so easy to color. Their color is really smooth and nice. And then what I did is I kind of went back over the areas that would be shaded a bit, just to make them a little bit darker. And give him a little definition. And of course we know his leg would be darker back there in the back. And I kind of tried to go along where I thought that the darker parts of him would be. I tried to think about where the light would hit him and which parts would be a little bit darker. Okay, and so there's that for the blender pen. And then next, I'm going to color their hooves because they'll be all the same. So I open, what you need to do first is squeeze your stamp pad a few times in the center, and that'll transfer the ink from the pad to the lid. You can see that mine have been used that way before, and they already have that dark on there. So we're going to color his hooves or feet. I assume donkeys have hooves. I guess I didn't really look that up. So I'll go over them once and then I'll do the other one, because I made both of their feet the same color. And then I'll go over them one more time just to kind of make them a little bit darker so they stand out a little bit. There we go. And one more time on this one. And then when you're done, you can just color on a piece of white paper until the color kind of goes out of your blender pen. Close up your ink. And next I am going to use the petal pink because I'll need that on both of the donkeys as well. Alright. And I'm going to use that for their ears, a little bit for the inside of their ears and for their face. So you'll notice as I'm working, the Memento ink doesn't bleed too much. I usually use the Stays On ink if I'm going to do a lot of watercoloring, or because it is more permanent. Oh, I forgot his ear. I forgot the one's ear. Hold on. There we go. Sorry, fella. There he goes. Alright, and then we are going to color him with our smoky slate. Now you will notice this is just the regular white cardstock. It's not the thick one. So the back side, the ink does leak through a little bit. So if you were using this on the card front, like on a note card, you probably would want to put another layer behind it, just so that when you open up the card on the inside, you don't see all that little coloring marks. Alright, so now we're going to color in the second donkey. And you will notice that with the blender pen, I do have to move kind of fast. The colors don't blend quite as easily as they do with the Stampin' blends. Now, if you're using watercolor paper, they do work a little bit easier with that. just because you can layer a lot more than you can with the regular white cardstock. Oh, I need to get a little more ink there. There we go. And this is the smoky slate color that I'm using right now. The color that we used on their hooves was gray granite. Right, I'm going to try and blend them in a little bit more. But I don't want my paper to get too wet, because it's a lightweight paper and it's not really meant for a lot of heavy coloring. So then we'll just do a little bit more shading. Okay, and we'll leave it at that because I don't want to get too carried away. I'll close up my blender pen. And the blender pens come in a pack of 3, and you can use the same one for lots of different kinds of colors. So you really don't need that many. In the beginning, I saved one for darker colors and one for lighter colors, but now I use the same one most of the time. And the color really comes off fairly well. So now we are going to cut out our, and see how now they're facing opposite directions. And so we used one stamp, this one stamp, and we made it face 2 directions. So this has a lot of possibilities. There are a lot of different stamp sets you could use this with. So now we're just gonna fussy cut our little donkey out. And we're gonna try to remember to turn our paper instead of our scissors. And now I'm just gonna try to skip that part a little bit so I don't have to go all the way in. And when you fussy cut, you can try to stay about the same distance as you go around. It does help sometimes if you take a pencil and you trace around where you're going to cut, like the video I did where you kind of draw a bubble around the letters if you're going to cut out a word, or you can do that same thing here. I just didn't take the time this time, and I probably should have, because it would have looked a little neater. Alright, get his little leg out of there. Okay, and I'll go in here a little bit. That's kind of a big space, so should be able to get a little bit closer. there. All right, so there are our donkeys. And now we can start putting everything together. So first, on our Flowers for All Season paper, we are actually going to use Flowers for All Season ribbon. So we're going to cut it so that it'll go around each side. And then we'll turn it over. Kind of make sure it's in the middle. And then I'm going to use some mini glue dots to stick it down. And I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool to pick up those mini glue dots. If you don't have a Take Your Pick tool, you can use the end of your scissors too. They work fairly well for grabbing up little sticky dots. So I'll put one on each side. I kind of stretched that one out a little bit. Both sides, it's okay. Alright, so then I'm going to try and get it kind of even. I'm just eyeballing it tonight. I'm not measuring, so hopefully when you turn it over, it doesn't look too crooked. Not too bad. Okay, and then we're going to take one more piece of this little white ribbon, and I'm just going to tie it around the side. So maybe right about here. And I'll try to flatten it out a little because it does pull it up a little bit. Because that ribbon was kind of tight. And then we'll trim the ends because it needs to be kind of short. There we go. Alright. Now we are going to turn this over and put some glue all along the edges of this in a real fine, line. I kind of got a little smudge there, so I'm going to smooth it out a little. Because you don't want the glue to warp your paper. You just want a nice, fine layer of glue. And then we're going to put that right on front of our card and line it up so that it's in the center. And glue it down. Alright, and next we're going to, on our stitch rectangle, turn that over. And we are going to put another little layer of glue on. And we'll attach that to the other piece of Night of Navy that we cut. And we'll try to get that. Oh no! Well, let's see here. We're going to have to trim that because that is not the right size. So it should be, let's see, I wrote down 2 7/8 by 4 1/2. So let's see what happened. That is 4 1/2. So it needs to not be 4 1/2. It needs to be 4 1/4. So we will trim that much better, doesn't it? Okay. Let's see, so that would be 4 1/4. Okay, and then on the back of this, we are going to put some, where are my Stampin' Dimensionals? Hold on one second. I thought I had everything ready. Here they are. Okay, so we're going to use 1 on each corner. And then because this is kind of a bigger piece, I'm going to put 1 in the center too, just to hold that center up a little. We'll peel off the backs. There we go. And if you start using these little Stampin' Dimensionals, you will find the little papers everywhere. I've been finding them everywhere lately. Down the hallway, in my shoes. They just kind of spread themselves around somehow. Well, I know how. It's static. There's lots and lots of static here. Okay, so there's that. And then we're going to put our other little donkey up in the corner. And for him, I'm going to cut off one of these little sides of the Stampin' Dimensionals just for his head. Then I'll peel off the backs again. And we'll put him up here. And I kind of like to put him off the edge just a little bit, just mostly because I can. Alright, and then our hee-haw, we're going to attach that. And I'm going to cut 2 more of those edge pieces for that because it really doesn't need a full Stampin' Dimensional. So there's 1. And 1 for this side. And we'll put it right here. And there we have it. Oh, no, we're not done. Hold on. I almost forgot. I added some of these little resin hearts kind of as a decoration, and these are in the occasions catalog right now, and that runs through June. So we're just going to take a few of these little hearts. Let's see, I want them to be the right direction. Well, maybe I'll use the sticky end. Now the Take Your Pick tool has different attachments. So this one is like a paddle end that I usually use to pick up sticky dots or glue dots. And this side has like a little putty end that you can use for sequins or all kinds of things. But they work really good for these little heart resin dots. So there's 1, 2, there we go. That one was a little bit more stuck than the other 2. And 3. There, now we have it. So there is another really cute card made with the Darling Donkey set, and it shows you how to use a reverse technique so that when you're stamping, if you have an image that you want to face the other direction, you can use your silicone craft mat to stamp that image facing the other way. So there is our card for tonight. Thank you for joining me for this Stampin' Sunday project. If you need more ideas, you can go to my website at aliciadolan.stampinup.net, and feel free to connect with me on Facebook or here on YouTube. Please like and share this video with anyone you think might be interested in it. Thank you for joining me tonight, and I will see you on the next Stampin' Sunday. Thanks, guys.